Hi, welcome, it's Jim Marisol. Just look at this. Nonsense. And largely from, a huge bunch of hypocrites. I couldn't give two hoots if 50,000 of these losers unsubscribe to our channel tomorrow. I don't care. I don't care about YouTube. YouTube, for those that aren't aware already, and I think a lot of you are, YouTube is done. It's no longer the go-to place for social media. So I don't care what these people say in their comment section, because you know what, I no longer rely on them for an income, and that is bliss. It really is. You know what, they're the ones that are losing out. They're too tight to put the hand in the pocket and throw a few bucks in. If a few people put a few bucks in, then other people that genuinely couldn't afford to have the service that we provide would get it. But these people that we see here making all these comments are the ones in life that never really amount to anything. Now, 18 months ago, I'm very analytical. I saw something changing on YouTube, and I also saw a behaviour pattern of YouTube themselves. I'm not sure whether many of you have cottoned on to that now, but basically anyone that has a legitimate reason to criticise mainstream organisations such as NASA, NOAA, ESA, you name it, if you're coming from a qualified point of view on particular subjects that they don't want you talking about, such as net zero, how harmful wind generators are to the environment, not just on the impairment of the open countryside which they are situated, but lots of other things like that, lots of government issues and things like that, they just don't want you talking about. And what the first thing they do is going to shut your revenue down, your advert revenue, like they did with me twice. And then they're going to restrict the traffic to your website. And when I saw that happening, I thought, you know what, I'm not going to rely on this platform anymore at all for support, because it shows we have 50 odd thousand subscribers, but that don't mean an orange. And I've always said this, you have as many subscribed to you as you do views on your last video. Simple as that. And of course, with people making comments like this, because now they know that the free tasting menu is no longer on the list, no longer on the menu. What are they doing? They're complaining. And why do I call them hypocrites? Because you know what, go to work for your boss for nothing tomorrow. Give him, you wouldn't give him 1 hour of your time for nothing. You wouldn't give him a day, and you certainly wouldn't give him a week, and it would be out the question for a month, wouldn't it? So my argument here is, we provide a very bespoke product. We are, and I could mention names, go through all those people that talk about magnetic pole reversal. How many of them have got magnetometers? How many of them have actually built magnetometers and sent them out internationally around the world? We had 2 in Australia, we had 1 in Hong Kong, we had 1 in Kentucky, where else? Phoenix, Arizona. We've got 1 in Canada. How many muon detectors have people built? Why would you build muon detectors? Well, if you're in the business of knowing what's happening with your magnetosphere, then one way to monitor that would be to monitor the muons at surface level, because they're the byproduct of crashed particles in the upper atmosphere through excessive cosmic rays. How many people do you know on YouTube that provide that information to you? Tell me. And I don't need to ask the next question because I already know the answer to it. There is only one of us with a Trimax system, and that's us at Mathstar. No one else took it upon themselves to build at least, one thing. Yet, seem to talk about the subject quite a lot. So that remains the question. Where are they getting the information from if they're not collecting it themselves? That's what we do here. We collect the data ourselves and we relay it back to the general public. We don't take government funding, nothing. It's all down to how much funds we've got, and you cannot tell me in the decade, over 10 years that I've spent doing on this topic, that I have not managed that money scrutinally and, more shrewd than the fox. But who else is giving that information out? Tell me. Where's all their equipment? They're talking about it. Obviously, as well as I do, they're conners. The con merchants. They're regurgitating the information that they get from the mainstream organisations. And I want to ask you a question. How much can you trust that information is correct? Do you trust your mainstream organisations like NASA, NOAA, the ESA, etc., etc.? Do you really trust them that much that what they publicise is right? The thing here was we was independent, we wasn't government funded, we wasn't mainstream funded by any means whatsoever. Just the revenue we raised was off the general public that had an interest in something that they should be paying more attention to than what they are right now. And I can guarantee you now, it's a very serious and severe situation that we are going to face on this earth at some point. And most people listening right now might be thinking, why is that? Come on, you bullshitter. Why don't you come forward and tell us why is that? I'll tell you straight. Because the magnetosphere is what keeps the biodiversity on our planet alive. Now, if you can't afford a cup of coffee to invest in an observatory which is critically analysing what's going on to the best of their abilities, that they've gone to the point of building a Trimax system which pinpoints the magnetic pole migration, built magnetometers, built muon detectors, took on other projects like monitoring atmospheric oxygen, monitoring atmospheric CO2, as well as all the other things that we do, like the radiation background count, the observation of active volcanoes in eruption, and the largest earthquake that takes place within a 24-hour period. And also providing a website free to anybody that comes along, with a huge 5-year archive of data that we've collected. Now, I ask you, and I will mention a name, Ben Davison, has he did that for you? Has Diamond at the Open Hammer Ranch did that for you? Where's their equipment? Where they're getting the information from? That's all you need to ask, those two questions. Because if it's coming from mainstream organisations, then the only other question you need to ask yourself is, are they being told what they need to be told? Or are they being told the exact truth? Because if I felt that way, then I'd be doing the exact same. I'd be going onto their websites, regurgitating the information and relaying it back to you. But I feel what I've done over the last decade has been more of a service, because I've been actively building the equipment and actually taking the measurements, which is, guess what? The scientific method of collecting data and analysis. And there's a pause. And guess why? because it should come as no surprise to anyone with a small amount of grey matter that that's the way you do business. Now, clearly, people don't want to support us on YouTube no more. That's fine. You know what? We're going to take care of those people that are seriously interested in the topic over on Patreon. And Earth Alpha at a Glance will also disappear from YouTube. We'll talk about, the American economy. We'll talk about European economy. We'll talk about the global economy on this channel from now on. And we are going to attract a different type of people that are interested in learning those things. But if you're interested in that bespoke information that you can't get from anywhere else, there is only one place to find it as of right now, and that is Patreon. The link is down there in the description. And until things change and people wake up and splash a bit of water on their face and sober up, until that happens, there will be no more magnetic information going on this channel. Like I said, you know what? This is not my bread and butter. I don't make my living on this anymore. I smelt the cheese months ago and I took evasive action. So I'm good. I don't need to do this anymore. But some of you would like to be in the knowledge of what's going on with your world, with one of the main components that keeps life going on this earth. The magnetosphere is the very biosphere that keeps life inhabitable on this planet. And there isn't many planets in our solar system, if any, that have that ability to do that, what we've got. That's what makes us very special. Two things: water. Without water, we'd be a dead planet. And without the magnetosphere, we'd be a dead planet. And it's that very second part of what I've just mentioned that is at threat here. That magnetosphere is collapsing. Do you understand that? Do you know what the implications are of that? And don't worry about, whether your kids are going to get to the age of 40. Don't worry about that. Don't worry about the fact whether you're going to make your mortgage end payment. Do not worry about that. Don't worry about whether you've got a job for life. Don't worry about that. And don't worry about the grocery bills going up in the shops. Forget that. Because, you know what? The magnetosphere is something else. If that goes, you're gone. And along with it, all the other biodiversity on our planet, gone. You know what? You might think, oh, this guy's nuts, crackers. You know what? He's talking about things that will never happen. Yeah. Well, it just so happens that our neighbouring planet, Mars, had a magnetosphere, had water flowing on the planet. If we look at the terrain on Mars, we can see the weathered rivers that were caused through water flowing on that planet at some point, causing that erosion. Where's the water gone today? Well, maybe because the magnetosphere collapsed when the core solidified, and as a result of that, it was left for erosion. These are things that your mainstream organisations do not tell, because I don't know why. Maybe it caused too much panic. People don't know the severity of the situation that our planet's in right now. And it's a joke to me to see comments like this on our channel. Absolute joke. It shows the mentality and the rightfully deserved positions that these people find themselves in. You know what? They didn't help themselves. They didn't add the foresight to see things coming, and so rightly so. They should be extinct. And it will happen. Yeah, that's a very serious thing to say, isn't it? But it will. They accused me of not caring. Can you believe that? When I cared more than anyone else on YouTube talking about this subject, enough to build the equipment. And then I got abused by saying the equipment never even existed. And then I showed the equipment. And then I got accused of not having any scientific qualifications. I showed the qualifications. And you know what? It just carried on and on and on and on. You know what? Your qualifications are just a means of showing that you attended a night school. Oh, you couldn't believe the bullshit that I've put up with. And the delinquents that are floating about freely on YouTube. And you know what? I expect more of these comments. And I'll just say this. You know what? 50,000 of you can unsubscribe today. I ain't got a problem with that. You know what? I've got enough people on Patreon to service with information on the latest magnetic pole reversal and Earth Alpha at a glance, where we take out a lot of equipment, the CO2 detector, the atmospheric oxygen sensor, you know, we do the muon readings from Kendall in Canada, and you know, the magnetometer data. We do all that, and we'll relay that to you guys over on Patreon. You know what? You know, I have give more than enough heads up to these people on YouTube, and to no peril, to no avail. Sorry, you know, we've absolutely wasted our breath and time. And like I said, unless people realise now they are about to lose a service that they can't get anywhere else, then we are not prepared to broadcast any more information with regards to the magnetic pole on this channel. We'll talk about the shelves emptying in the United States, in over 10 states already. You know, that weren't even supposed to happen for another week and a half. We'll talk about the logistics, trucking jobs that are, you know, forcing layoffs, you know, and we'll talk about, you know, the ports all around America being emptied by 40%. We'll talk about all that stuff. You know what? I don't mind. That's stuff that I don't mind talking about. But you know what? I invested over a decade. Over 10 years into, you know, building equipment, learning myself, programming, you know, so that I could provide the equipment data to you and the information. And you know, that's it. Anyhow, let's see what the next comments are in the comment section. I'm just, you know what, you could write it down on a piece of paper. You don't need a crystal ball. You know, you're just dealing with the general public, and most people that work with the general public know exactly what I'm talking about. You know, we're going to get a load of lunatics, aren't we, that are going to, you know, use every negative angle to have a go back at me, but it's not going to change a damn thing. I'm just going to tell them now, you know what, the time they spend writing the comment will be just time wasted, because I don't care. You know, YouTube do not pay my bills. Nothing I do on YouTube pays my bills. And you know, those few people that are on Patreon, which I am going to service with all the information I can possibly give them on the magnetic pole shift, but it's neither here or there. But because they have shown that they are prepared to give a little, you know, to support, I'm going to service them regardless. And that's all there is to say.